Do you want to know how to grow your sales organization, grow your business, grow your church? It doesn't matter what it is you're looking to expand or grow. I'm going to share with you some 3 key concepts of growth tonight. These concepts helped us grow a sales organization to $100 million worldwide that we ended up doing. And we started at practically zero. So I'm going to share with you the 3 concepts that we focused on. Now this is going to be specific to our sales organization, but some of these concepts will apply no matter what sort of organization you're looking to expand and or grow. By the way, my name is Jackie O'Quinn. I am a master trainer here with Destiny Global. I got started in my business for myself. I got started in business for myself back when I was in my early 20s. I was working full-time as a registered nurse, and I always had a desire to be able to be an entrepreneur. Ended up starting a small business over the internet, and that first year in business part-time, I earned $70,000 in profit. My second year ended up doing $120,000 and I became an entrepreneur full time. And I've been an entrepreneur ever since then. Eventually that business, we grew a sales organization to over $100 million in sales worldwide. And that's what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight, some of the 3 key concepts that we use. Now, to be very honest with you, I could probably do an entire day's seminar on how to be able to grow and scale an organization, particularly a sales organization. But tonight, you want to have pen and paper handy because I'm going to give you 3 concepts that you want to focus on. And I feel very strongly about what I'm going to talk about tonight. I have watched a lot of businesses start and fail. I've seen businesses start, stagnate, which is even worse, and eventually fail. And so many times I've had people debate what I'm going to say tonight, but what I'm going to tell you tonight isn't on trial. We actually did it. This isn't something that I learned in some sort of book or read the latest, Amazon Kindle book on business and business growth or whatever. This is what we actually did in business. And some of the most successful business models around today do very, very well with the very concepts I'm going to be talking about with you tonight. So it's not like we were the only ones that ever did this. But this is what we did when we started. Initially it was just a couple of people, 2 or 3 people, and this is how we grew this organization and blew up all over the world. Number one thing that you need to focus on inside of any organization, particularly a sales organization, but this is true inside of your employment, inside of a church or whatever. This is very, very important. All too often, leaders of organizations, and we'll focus on sales organizations, leaders of organizations, including sales organizations, can take this for granted, but you need to have a strategic approach and a strategic plan to focus on this one thing inside of your organization. Point number 1 is you have to focus on having a positive morale. Now, as a leader, you're responsible for helping control the environment, helping give a positive environment for people to work in and operate in. Just a couple of tips to help you produce a positive morale. One thing is you want to focus on education of your product or service, meaning you want to build belief. The last thing that you can have is salespeople of any kind having doubt in your products or services that your company provides. So you want people to fully understand the products and services. So I'll make certain if you're going to do something inside of your company to be able to help your organization, inside of your sales organization, if you're going to do something, focus on educating on the product or the service. Now, here's the thing. A lot of times people are like, we have education in place. We have an onboarding in place. Everybody goes through the same initial education. Okay, great. But once a week, once a day, twice a week, twice a month, whatever, you want to have some sort of training where you dive back into another part of your product or service, teaching something about it. And every single time you do that, you're going to be reinforcing positive belief, which ultimately leads to a positive morale inside of the organization. Another thing that you can focus on, and it could be the same training. You could do, if you're not doing it every day, you should do some sort of training once a week. Focus on your product and or your service. So there's the technical aspect. What is a product made of? How does it work? Why does it work so well? Why does your customers or clients need this product? How does it save them money? How does it save them time? Whatever those things are. Has the product been featured somewhere in the media? Has there been some sort of study about it that you could discuss inside of some sort of a meeting or a sales meeting or presentation? Now, in our sales organization, we did these sort of meetings in the evening time because everybody basically worked from home. So we would have meetings we'd have like a Zoom meeting or a conference call back in the day. before we did Zoom, but we'd have a Zoom meeting or a Zoom presentation where some sort of training was done, and part of that training was building belief in the product, the processes of what we had and what we did. Another thing that you can do inside of those meetings is you can always focus on new client testimonials, new customer testimonials. What are some of your latest customers? What are some of the results they've had? Review past customer testimonials. Here's the thing about sales organizations. Attrition is really important to grow. In other words, you don't want to lose too many people if you can help it, but you will always have turnover. Always, specifically if you're doing something like 100% sales. Specifically if you're doing something like us, it was 100% sales, everybody worked from home, so basically you were just building an army of volunteers. And so you're always gonna have turnover. So even older client testimonials or older client stories can still relate to people who are, there's always gonna be someone hearing it for the first time. Plus, it's always good for older people to be reminded of some of those past client customer testimonials. But if you're in a business where you're constantly getting new client or customer testimonials, then I would share the new testimonials every single chance you could. Even if you started the meeting with 2 or 3 brand new customer testimonials from this past week, or we just got a new positive Google review, that would be something great to share as well. Another thing that you want to be able to focus on inside of a sales organization specifically is other salespeople that are having success. So we're talking about building belief on a product, building belief on getting the product getting results, product or service, building belief on the product or service getting results. Another thing that you can do is help focus on believing that they can succeed with it. They can actually successfully sell it. Now, the way I would recommend you do this is highlight or recognize people that are getting results. Now, there's 2 types of people you want to focus on. You want to focus on the brand new person that comes in and has very quick success, whether it's the very first sale, they got the first client, or they onboarded their first client, or they had a huge month. That would be someone recognized. They come in right away and they had a huge month. So you're looking to recognize the quick success because that builds belief of what's possible. And then you want to focus on the person who what I call is a hard worker, meaning they persevered. Maybe they didn't have good success their first month or their second month, but by their 3rd month, it just, the floodgate really opened up for them. Or by their 4th month or their 5th month, the floodgate really opened up for them. And you want to make certain that you recognize those people. Ideally, it's going to be consistently recognizing new people, but every now and again, it's just recognizing little things that someone did that's brand new and then sharing their overall story about, hey, John this week ended up getting a bunch of referrals. Want to recognize how many referrals he got this week. He had, 145 referrals. Also, just those of you who don't know, John's been with us for about 8 months, but his first 3 months, he really struggled with X, Y, and Z. But by his 4th month, he really started getting his feet underneath him. And by his 5th month, he was having great results and getting success, etc. So you want to recognize 2 types of people. You want to recognize the quick start and the hard worker who persevered and eventually had success. That's going to inspire somebody getting started of what's possible. And then if for some reason they don't get the results they want, it's going to reinforce what's possible if they continue to work and to keep going and they don't give up, kind of thing. So number 1, focus on morale. And again, I could do an entire 1-hour training on helping build morale and keeping morale high and positive. But a couple of tips is when you educate people and you give them something to work towards, then it prevents them to focus on what they didn't succeed with or focus on discouragement. So educate on the product or service, show brand new client testimonials or results, and also focus on salespeople getting results, salespeople getting quick results, and people who worked hard and eventually got results. Okay, that was concept number 1, morale. Concept number 2, and this is where we start getting into some applicable things. As you're building, all too often people make a mistake and they're trying to focus on growth. They're like sales numbers, sales growth, and as in dollars coming in, or customer numbers. And so you'll recognize quickly that you'll have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people that are like sort of hot shots and they're doing really good and they're bringing in, a bunch of business. And that's great. Like that's really, really important. What's more important to focus on though than sales growth or the overall numbers is focusing on duplication. Like when you're focusing on, if you focus on growth, you end up putting a lot of your time and attention into the quote unquote superstars. The problem is superstars come and go. What you want to do when you're focusing on building out an organization, the question is not that we got one superstar killing it. It's how do we get 10 people who can do a little bit more? Let's just say whatever your company is, you got 10 sales reps and they all average one sale. It's like, what can we do differently so that people can start averaging 2 sales or 1.5 sales, or maybe everybody's averaging 2 sales? What can we do to create a process where people can average 3 sales instead of 2 sales, for example? In other words, you want to increase the baseline. So the way that you do this, and the way that you want to be able to do this is you want to focus on streamlining everything. You want a process that is just straightforward across the board. So for example, in our organization, it didn't matter if someone was, in Oklahoma building business, if they were in North Carolina building business, if they're in California, Washington, Oregon, if they were in India, Malaysia, the UK, Australia, Brazil, Spain. I mean, we had people all over building business, whether on the continent of Africa, multiple continents. Everybody was building it the exact same way. They were doing the exact same style of presentation. In fact, part of our education was don't reinvent the wheel. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. John, has made X amount of dollars or got X amount of sales by simply, for example, reading the script. So if you can script out a sales presentation, if that's possible, then have it scripted, at least have it bullet pointed. And you just make it step by step by step. You want it where the brand new person can get started. This is their presentation. They don't have to overthink it. They don't have to, overcomplicate it. You want 80 to 90% of the sales process figured out for them. The rest of it is going to be learning how to deal with objections and closing. And that's going to be through some outsourced training I can tell you about in a moment that we used. But outside of this actual sales process, 80 to 90% of it is going to be totally cookie cutter, totally step by step by step. The simpler it is, the better off you're going to be. The last thing you want to do is build a sales organization that's all about catering to just a certain type of personality. You understand, we were marketing high ticket products up to $11,000. We had people purchasing those products sight unseen. And we had everybody from in their 70s all the way down at 19 years of age, all walks of life, all sorts of sales experience. Most had no successful sales experience, and we had people succeeding marketing these products from home, in part because we have a very simple process. Our process was there's a simple script that they read, and they took them to a recorded presentation or a live presentation. Most often it was live, but recorded works well. And so they went to those live presentations. Now, I've helped and I've worked with sales organizations. They did a person-to-person presentation, and they used a simple flip chart or kind of a flip book. Their sales aid was some sort of information guide, and basically on every page, the sales representative or the agent understood what to say on each page as they were flipping the page. And that was sort of how the process was done for them. It doesn't look like an obvious sales book, but that's kind of what it was, kind of a presentation, if you will. If you have a business where people go out and they get quotes, you want that entire process streamlined so the brand new person can follow that exact same process. You want to do your best to create a training system and an organization where it's not reliant on certain types of personalities, certain types of advanced skill sets. The simpler you can make it, the better off you're going to be. So another thing that you want to do when it comes to help focusing on duplication as opposed to growth is make your sales process as simple as possible while it's still effective. Meaning, if you can turn a 10-step process into a 5-step process, focus on that. People are going to pick up 5 steps a lot easier than they're going to pick up 10 steps. If you want them to get a sales quote and then you want them to send somebody out to, whatever, do measurements and customize an order or whatever, and then they're going to bring that back and then it's got to go to somebody else and that person's got to do something else. That makes for a very complicated sales process. It's very time consuming. It's not easy. You want to make it as cookie cutter as possible. So you have to take your emotions out of it, look back at your process and say, what can we simplify? And by the way, here's an advanced tip. When you try something brand new, don't try it with the whole organization. Just try it with the new people getting started. Don't tell the whole organization to do it. Let them do what they're doing. They're already producing sales. Don't throw them sideways. Take the brand new people coming in and practice putting your brand new approaches with the brand new people. I'm talking about like your sales approaches or your sales processes. The new simple process, try it with your brand new people getting started, because it's the only way they know, and they're not going to have to unlearn things. The problem with teaching people a complicated, difficult process where they rely on their personality, they become convinced that that's the only process that will work. So it's difficult to get them to unlearn something. Once you have some success stories of people who get started, and they get started faster, simpler, and easier, and it's still working, eventually some of these older salespeople will come back, and they'll at that point, they may be willing to relearn the new thing. But you focus on the simple process. Now, I want to tell you this. Anytime you have salespeople that are relying only on their personality to sell, some people have the personality and the charisma to be able to just pull it off. They can walk into a room, they're like a people magnet, and they can just get people's attention. They're not concerned with approaching people and talking to people, and they just have that charisma. The challenge with someone relying on their charisma is the day that they don't feel good, or something's going on in their life, or they're stressed out about something, they're not going to have that same charisma. And then they're going to wonder, did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? But if they have a step-by-step process that they do over and over and over again, anytime they're in a bit of a slump, some sort of sales slump for any reason, they're not going to wonder, did I say something wrong? Because they're saying basically the same thing on each appointment, and it works in the past, so there's no reason it's going to stop working. And it's the same thing that everybody else is saying, and it's already working for them. So they're not going to wonder, oh my goodness, did I say something wrong? No, you're just saying maybe it was just how you're feeling that day. Maybe it's just an off day for you, so you don't have to second guess everything. I have seen people, for example, not use scripts. They just wing it, and it works, and then it stops working, and then all of a sudden they try to redo their presentation again, and they try to come up with another idea, another process, and then that seems to work, but it doesn't get the results they want, and then they're trying another process. All of a sudden, someone who was a good salesperson becomes a bad salesperson because they keep reinventing the wheel, and they're not even aware of where they got off track. When you have a simple, duplicatable process, that doesn't happen. Think about franchises. Franchises have very simple, duplicatable processes. It doesn't matter where you get a Chick-fil-A sandwich, a Starbucks coffee, or a McDonald's cheeseburger. They all taste relatively the same because those are all franchise models that follow a very simple process. Well, Chick-fil-A is not really a franchise, but you know what I mean. It's a very duplicatable model, and it works. And they produce billions and billions of dollars in sales. Okay, next up, by the way, someone in your industry already has a very simple process, just so you know. So the person, typically in competition, the person with a simpler process can get to market quicker, faster, and expand and grow easier. So focus on things that can allow you to be duplicatable, as opposed to just focusing on growth. In other words, you want your salespeople to go from, instead of having 10 people and 1 or 2 are really, really amazing hotshots, you want to eventually have 30, 40, 50. And now that's very difficult if you end up with 10 prima donnas who all think they're special and have excellent personalities to be able to sell. But if you have 40 or 50 people who just work a process and they get very comfortable working that process, it's a much, much, much easier sales organization to build, to grow, to manage, and maintain. Okay, next up, this is number 3, and this really goes along with the streamlined process and focusing on duplication. So I talked about morale, and this helps with morale. I talked about focusing on duplication and instead of just growth alone. By the way, if you focus on duplication, growth takes care of itself. Sorry about that. The other thing that you want, number 3, is you want to outsource your training. Now, I don't mean the training on your products or your services. You're still going to do that. All too often, what ends up happening, and this is a mistake that we made in the very, very beginning, is that you want to educate on your products or services, educate on your customer service part of your business model, and then you're going to try to teach and train on sales. And the way that a lot of organizations do this is they try to take their superstar salespeople, who in many cases have become superstars by relying on their personality, so that's not very duplicatable, it's not easy to teach. They end up taking the superstar salespeople and they take them out of the field, and they want them to come in and start training. They give them additional responsibility. So now you got your best salespeople who are getting the best results for you, and you're giving them something else to do that keeps them from focusing on selling. And the idea is they're going to somehow help the entire organization grow. if you've built a sales organization for any length of time, you know what typically happens. You bring in the superstar salespeople, their production goes down, and then the rest of the production never goes up to really justify pulling those people out of the field. The worst thing that you can do is take a burnt out salesperson that used to be good and think the way that you keep them around is bring them in and give them new responsibility and new recognition as a trainer and to start training. You never want a burnt out person who used to be good to start training your brand new sales organization. So what we did, and we did this very methodically, very intentionally, and I mean, dare I say even religiously, we promoted an outside sales training system that was in no direct competition to our industry. And it wasn't just sales training, it was also like personal development, helping them build their personal character, helping them, basically become a better human as overall, while at the same time teaching them how to become good employees. There's an entire training section called Employpreneur, which is just generally speaking how to be a good employee and why it's important to be a good employee, and recognizing how much your boss, their boss, has sacrificed to be able to provide an opportunity for them and give them some conviction about not being productive on the job or mismanaging their time on the job. We get rave reviews off that section. Well, that section is incredibly useful even for salespeople, of course, because many of them are also employees or they see themselves in a kind of an employee role. Even if they see themselves as self-employed, they're an independent contractor, they understand that they're working at the privilege of somebody else, if you will. So then that, and then an entire psychological training about overcoming objections and why objections are oftentimes necessary and they shouldn't be feared. That whole training got outsourced. We outsourced it, and at one point in time, we were outsourcing it every single month. That training still goes on. It's coming up. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But the idea behind outsourcing your sales training is because it removed a bottleneck. If you end up with a good sales trainer, say in your office, or say you got 2 locations or a region, and you got a sales trainer there, you can only expand as quickly as you can get a new sales trainer. But if you can minimize the need for a sales trainer, sometimes get rid of that need altogether. Like we had no sales trainers in our organization. It was all about go to this training, go to First Steps to Success. That's the name of the training. Go to First Steps to Success. Get your training there. It totally removed a bottleneck of having a sales trainer. The other thing that it did was it had everybody on the same page with the processes and the philosophy of what we do and why we do it based off what was learned at First Steps to Success. So when someone was training on the product or the service and a sales question came up, it was real easy to say, we learned at First Steps to Success X, Y, and Z. And then someone could step up and say, yeah, I've been doing that ever since I learned it, and this is how it's worked with my clients. So now you're going to have salespeople who are pointing out this other training saying, hey, that's what I did and it worked for me. That's what I did and it worked for me. This training is very specific, very dynamic, and it was so incredible for us that we had people from all walks of life that was earning $100,000 or more. We eventually were able to track it through our organization and realize that we didn't have anyone inside of our organization who started with us and grew up and had a successful business of earning even 50,000 or more, but definitely 100,000 or more. That was the number we always used. But every single one of them had went through that training, First Steps to Success. And what it does, by the way, this is a training that they typically paid for. You can subsidize it, but we didn't even subsidize it. They had to get there on their own. They had to go to that training. And when they went, they took ownership for the training and they showed up. And when they showed up in person, they were making a physical investment of time and money into their skill set to be able to help grow your business. That is incredible. Talk about people taking ownership for what they're doing. Everybody's getting trained the exact same way. You don't have to worry about people who are reading this sales book, going to this course, taking this training, and they're all coming with different ideas, different concepts. In fact, the products that we marketed, there was a bunch of sales organizations that did the same thing. And there were people out there who said, you know what, we're going to recommend this trainer and this trainer. They'd bring in trainers. And they'd have all these different famous people about, you've read their books. And the problem is they all had different philosophies, different ideas, different ways of saying things. And then what would happen is their whole idea was like, we're going to have our salespeople get exposed to everything, and they're going to be able to pull in, whatever they want that they like, that's going to help them where they're at, meet them where they're at, was their whole model. We're going to meet our salespeople where they're at, and they're going to take ownership, and they're going to grow from there. And what ended up happening was they did have some growth and they did have some sales, but they ended up having a lot of internal conflict and all this sort of stuff. And that entire organization actually eventually went out of business, but that all this disagreement, it was not simple, it was not straightforward, it was not at all duplicatable. By the way, that training event is called First Steps to Success. It still occurs several times a year. I highly recommend it. It's been going on long before I was in business. It's been going on for 30 plus years. When I got started in my 20s and went, it had been going on for many, many years before then, and it still continues on to this day. Our very next live First Steps to Success event is going to be coming up in July. Take a look down below, click on that link, get registered, or go to firststepstosuccess.com. Get registered, firststepstosuccess.com. When you go there, by the way, just click on you'll see several options for whatever ticket you want. Don't get overwhelmed. Just click a ticket. Just get there. It doesn't matter which seat you get. Just get there. Get to the room. There'll be several hundred people there at the event with you, most likely. The event may sell out. The hotel block for the room is going to potentially sell out as well. So make certain that you get your ticket, get your flight booked while the flights are still cheap, and then make certain that you also get your hotel booked right away so you can get the discounted room block, because there's going to be a room block as well. We believe so strongly in this training, and it made all the results for us. And we believed in it early on when we hadn't even made $100,000 a year. And we continue to believe on it all the way until we did over $100 million. So I recommend that you get to that training. Listen, you can go to the training and you can check it out for yourself. But I'm going to tell you right now, don't just go and check it out for yourself. Take some of your team members with you, because the reality is this: you're going to be sitting in that training, and I can promise you, you're going to be sitting in that training thinking, I wish, I had my sales manager here. I wish so-and-so was here. I wish this salesperson was here. I wish my secretary was here. I wish, my office manager was here. You're going to absolutely wish that. And then you're going to have to wait months until there's another event. And then you're going to have to try to get all those people to go to that event. You're going to delay your potential growth. The seats are affordable. There are competing events that charge $5,000 per event. This event is nowhere near that price, not even close. This entire event is designed, First Steps to Success, is to be able to help you grow your business and to help sales organizations to be able to grow. So it's designed to be affordable enough that people can plug into it regularly if they need to. They can plug their sales organizations into it regularly if they need to. So if you want to come out this summer and you want to knock down doors and you want to finish the year strong, I recommend that you get registered for First Steps to Success. Again, www.firststepstosuccess.com. Quick recap: you want to focus on morale of the organization. It's your responsibility. You have to do your best to keep morale high. Educate on the benefits of the product and service. Educate with client testimonials that are getting results. Educate on positive reviews. Also, because people quickly will fall into disbelief about your products and services. The other thing is focus on people that salespeople that are getting results within your organization, within your company. Also, point number 2, focus on not just sales growth, but focus on sales duplication across the board. You want to focus on sales duplication, duplicatable systems, duplicatable models. Part of that training is going to help keep things duplicatable. By the way, First Step Success is absolutely one of the most common things we hear is how it boosts morale inside organizations. That's part of the intent of that training, with real applicable techniques and training that they can apply to their life and their business. I'll say point number 3, I'm running out of time here, is you want to be able to outsource training and make it systematic, consistent. You want a proven training system that simply works. FirstStepSuccess.com. Check it out. And if not, by the way, then just show up here and get the free training right here on the Destiny Global Facebook page. It's free. We'll continue to give you all the training that we can, free content. Follow us on Instagram, all the socials, wherever. Grow your business. At the end of the day, we want the absolute best for you. We are individuals who have had success in our own lives, and we give back here to this organization to be able to give back to a business model and a training system that help all of us have the success we've had. Thank you so much. My name is Jackie, and I look forward to seeing you at the next First Steps to Success.